Boom, 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 boom. 100 episodes of this show. Can you believe it? We made it this far. It's 100 of That Thing with James. That's me. Hey, how do you do? 100 episodes of this show for you. That's too many yous put together in a song, but fuck it, here's 100 episodes. Welcome to the 100th episode of That Thing with James. That's me, and I want to say thank you all. Thank you to you special people. You know who you are, especially you know who you are. You helped me with gear and just other things to help me get set up, to get this thing started. And all of you, I've gotten so much support throughout the life of the show thus far. And I cannot thank you all enough. It's because of your support I keep making this show, and I hope it's worth your time. I hope it's keeping you entertained and maybe teaching you a bit, and just, a good way to spend your time. I hope it's worth your time, and it certainly it adds a lot of value to my time because I have so much fun doing this. So thank you, and thank you to everyone who's ever been a guest on my show, and a special thank you to Emily. It makes my life so much easier. It's nice to have company making the show. Solo episodes are fun, but man, it's always nice to have company. Now, for the content of this episode, I originally reached out to the community to ask for some ideas, and I got some great ideas that I'm keeping in my pocket because I'm going to use them in future episodes. But by pure luck, I managed to get an interview for this episode and for the bonus episode we recorded right after. I got an interview with one of the hosts of one of my favorite podcasts. I listen to it every time they put out a new episode. It's a relationship podcast that in my humble opinion, blows the socks off of Loveline. It's so much better. It's called Radio Free Tote Bag. And in this episode, I am reviewing one half of RFTB. And so thank you, dear guest, for doing the show for the 100th episode. I feel so fucking special. Like, I still don't know how to process the feelings, but I am so grateful for everyone's help and support. Now, before we get into the interview, I should plug my stuff. And if you want to catch like the second half of my interview with my guest today, you can access that because it's in a bonus episode. You can access bonus episodes at patreon.com/thatthingwithjames. Subscriptions there start at $5 a month. It's just $5 for an entire month, and you will get a new bonus episode every week, plus access to all previously recorded and released bonus episodes. So consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/thatthingwithjames. If you have any ideas for like a subject you would like me to cover or a story to share, if you are on the show, if you are in need of advice, I'm always happy to give advice on the show, and I will keep you anonymous. If you have any business inquiries, or if you just want to say nice things to me, send me an email, thatthingwithjames@gmail.com. You can also find me on social media. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm new to TikTok. My handle is on all three, @JamesJAsher. And if you have any files on your phone or computer just bursting with, shit posts and just generally shitty memes, not mean, not derogatory, just poor quality memes, give them to me. Put them up on my subreddit, r/thatthingwithjames. It's lonely and it needs your input. So, and also at the end of this show, I'm going to copy paste my guests' socials and my guests' plugs, because I kind of forgot we were so wrapped up in conversation, I completely forgot to ask him for his plugs for the freemium episode. So I'm going to copy paste from the bonus episode when I did remember to ask for his plugs. Yeah, I had so much fun and time just blew by doing this interview. So without further ado, here it is, the 100th episode of That Thing with James. Quick breaking news. I have this written down. My guest for this episode came out as trans between the time that we had recorded and the time I needed to upload this episode. So first off, I want to congratulate my guest on coming out. I'm super happy for her. I don't imagine it was an easy thing to do, but I imagine it feels very good, like a huge relief to have done it. Now, with that said, I do want to note that due to the timing in which I received this news, I was not able to make all of the changes I would like to have made to this episode prior to uploading it. Thus, this episode does inadvertently deadname my guest. Emphasis on the word inadvertently. I brought this to my guest's attention, suggesting I make a preface like the one you're seeing right now. She approved of the idea and of the content of this message. So I just want to ask a favor of you, dear viewer. Whenever you hear or read the name Arthur in this episode, please just mentally replace it with the name Audrey. I would appreciate it, and I'm sure she would too. I will have Audrey's new Twitter handle in the video description, so disregard that's the one that's in the video itself. And with that said, I just want to congratulate my guest again, and without further ado, here's the show. Does it tell you recording in progress on your end too?
Yeah, it says this meeting is being recorded.
That's kind of fucking ominous.
It is.
Well, welcome to the show. This is the 100th episode. And for all of you watching and or listening, I have a very special guest. Don't worry, I say that for all the guests. This is literally no matter what I say, it's the most special guest I've ever had. No, don't worry, I say that for everyone. Do you mind giving the audience a little introduction?
My name is Arthur Brem. I am one half of the hit relationship advice podcast, Radio Free Tote Bag. Radio Free Tote Bag. It's a show about relationships. And every week we take Reddit questions. We take questions from listeners. We have fun guests. And we give you a light ribbing and then give you some sage advice on what you should do. Because, if it's a Reddit question, it's usually some guy saying, my girlfriend only shaves her armpits 3 times a week. Should I break up with her?
Oh, God.
And if it's a gal on Reddit, it's usually something along the lines of like, my boyfriend's like a psychopath. Should I break up with him?
It's a little unbalanced, seems
yeah,
like.
It's fully uneven on Reddit particularly. But yeah, we have a good time. We have some fun back there.
How long have you guys been doing the show?
3.5 years.
Oh.
Yeah, coming up on 4 years. It'll be 4 years in March of 2022.
So you started, I am fucking awful with math. What would that be, like 2019?
2018.
2018.
Yeah.
I think that's around the time I started this.
Nice.
Around the time, yeah.
We're like pod buddies.
Yeah, man.
We're in the sophomore class.
I started listening to you guys, I think, last year, or maybe just before lockdown.
Heard about you via, I think it was Pod Damn America.
I get that all the time. That was so huge for us.
Really?
Yeah.
I listen to you guys every week. I fucking love it. You give really good advice.
I mean,
I think it's really good.
I have a lot of experience with this kind of thing. Like I sort of break my relationship history into like 3 periods. There's like age 14 to 19. That was one person. I was with one person for 5 years from age 14 to 19.
Oh, wow.
And I was with one person from age 19 to 24. And then I have a sort of long period of being single and just kind of dating around and, you know, seeing what I can get into for a few years. And then I had a serious relationship that lasted about on again, off again, about 2 years. And that's really informed my sort of view of things. I have an orientation towards long-term relationships, and I know how to, if not make them thrive, at least sustain them in a Frankenstein-like fashion, like bolting pieces onto it and keeping the thing moving.
So, like, what were some of the big? Would you have considered yourself like a serial monogamist at the beginning?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have a tendency towards monogamy. I have experience with polyamory as well. I've dated 2 of those people where we're polyamorous by orientation, and like when I met college girlfriend is usually how I refer to her on the show. She was dating a woman, but she was her secondary. I'm like, okay, so like, you know, girlfriend's girlfriend has a boyfriend, and that's the primary relationship, and then she has a secondary relationship with this girl that I met.
Right.
And then I come in and I'm like, I want to be your primary. And then everything goes to shit from there. Like everything just falls the fuck apart because I'm 19 and like incapable of emotional intelligence and understanding that I am actually a very insecure person. And so
a poly relationship seems like that is like masterclass for figuring out just how jealous you or someone else might be.
Alex Patak called it the ultimate test of how good you are at sitting in meetings.
I imagine there's a lot of communication that happens.
Yeah, there has to. Like you absolutely have to continually be in touch, not only with your partner and what they're getting up to and sort of how you feel about their interface with others. You have to be really in touch with yourself in a way that I am just not capable of. Like I don't kind of know what I'm even feeling in a given moment most of the time. I'm like really sort of out of touch with myself in a lot of ways. And that's not conducive to polyamory, because it'll be like, how do you feel about this? And I'll be like,
right. You're still trying to process and put words to it. Like you don't even, like, I'm experiencing this thing. It's kind of intense, but I don't even know how to make sense of it. Kind of like that.
Right. Yeah. It's very disorienting. Mm-hmm. And then when I am able to discern how I feel about something, it's like, I'm very sad, or just like incredibly like just anxious. I have a lot of anxiety in my life. And so it's like, if I'm able to sort of put all of that onto, it's like it turns all of the anxieties in my life, like, because I'm just filled with them, into anxiety about the relationship.
Right. It's a focal point for everything.
Yeah. So I have learned through trial and error that is not how I thrive. I do not do well in a polyamorous situation. So I would say that to this day, I still am a serial monogamist.
So how do you thrive? Like, what are some of the things you learned? Are there maybe some sort of like staple things to keep in mind as you proceed through a relationship?
Be very giving is number one. Like you have to be ready to give of yourself freely and without expectation. You have to be ready to meet somebody else's needs. And of course, this is something we talk about all the time. You have to be able to meet your own needs really first before you can start meeting somebody else's needs. So we say you have to be the one before you find the one. So you really have to. What
do you mean by that? Like,
you have to be like a completed individual before you can get into a successful relationship, because another person is not going to complete you.
Exactly. Because that's grounds for a codependent relationship where I don't really know who I am. I don't really feel comfortable. And so I'm going to seek that out in a relationship.
Yeah. I got enough of that already. I don't need to.
Yeah. Well, I actually wrote down a bunch of questions. I've been talking about anxiety. I try to do whatever I can to mitigate my own shit.
Important.
So, well, the first question is, who are you? We already answered that. How did you get into podcasting in general? Is this your first one, RFTB?
This is my first show. It was all Donovan, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm a bit of a pampered person. I was one year, I think I would have been, God, if it was 2018, I would have been 20, or I would have been turning 30. And I was like, "Hey mom, my birthday's coming up. What are you going to give me for my birthday?" She's like, "Whatever you want, honey." She's like, "All right, you're 30. What do you want?" And I was like, I really need like a recording setup, because I had this idea that I was going to do VO work from the house, because I've got these dulcet tones, and I figured I could do some kind of like announcer stuff, like just get on Fiverr and be like, "Do you need somebody to say some shit on your stuff? I'll do it." And that ended up not panning out, because the room that I'm in here faces a very busy street with a roundabout. So the only time that I would actually be able to record studio quality audio is like in the dead of night. And I just never really got around to doing it. So I had this recording setup sitting around, and it was just staring me in the face every day. I'm like, God, I have to do something with this. This is terrible. And then Donovan comes to me one day and literally in his crusty ass Donovan voice just says, "Do you want to start a podcast?" I'm like, "What about?" And he's like, "I really like Loveline. Do you want to do a show like Loveline?"
Hell yeah.
I'm like, I mean, yeah. And then like 2 weeks later, I'm reading our first question on the first episode is, "How do I tell my date that I do not have a penis?"
Oh shit.
Yeah.
How do you tell that?
Well, so the person is a AMAB person that was involved in an accident and had like their penis damaged and removed, right?
What's AMAB?
Assigned male at birth.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So they had their penis mangled in an accident, which is not funny, but it is also like a little funny.
It's like a movie.
Right. Yeah. It's like something out of, it's that Tom Cruise flick where he's like paralyzed. Yeah. That's terrible. But he's like talking about how like, I mean, I still, want to date and want to like, be with women, but like, how do I break it to them that I'm not, equipped in this way?
It's kind of.
Yeah. And Donovan's big advice was like, some women don't even really prefer penetrative sex. So like, don't even fucking worry about it. Like, just be confident in who you are and get that tongue game strong.
Did the guy ever write back? Did you?
Nah, it was a Reddit question. So we didn't ever get the follow up for that. Most of the show, like early on, was Reddit, but we're finally blessed enough to have a listenership that provides us with material every week. So that was sort of a turning point for us when we started getting into like just doing listener questions more.
Right.
That's when I knew things were really kind of moving on the show.
The question box.
Asking no questions.
Who made that song? I love that song.
I'm gonna look it up. I want to get the attribution right. All them questions.
Ask no questions.
That is Forgive me if it starts the video. Oh God. Spoken Reasons is the name of the YouTube channel.
Okay.
It's from a skit where like they're talking about like how women be in conversations.
Uh-huh. I think I've heard of this.
Yeah, there's a dude, he does like really funny faces. I don't know. It was great.
Women be in conversations.
Like, and I was like, I want to have some kind of sting for starting the thing, for like getting into this segment. I was like, well, people are asking questions. I must ask them a question. Why are you asking all them questions?
And giving answers?
Assuming?
Oh, is that what it says?
Yeah, he says, it's why you asking all them questions, making statements. Assuming?
Assuming? I gotta check this out, man.
It's really funny. I'll send you a link.
Oh, God. Did you ever watch Whitest Kids You Know?
Yeah, Trevor Moore.
He fucking died?
Just dead.
41 years old.
41 years old. I hear it was an accident of something, like a car accident.
Yeah, it's that fucking sucks.
Yeah.
I like that show.
I love that show. I love God, like Gallon of PCP is one of my favorite comedy skits of all time. And he's there. He's like, typically he was playing like a more wild character, but he played the straight man in that particular skit. Mm-hmm. And he just, wow, a gallon of PCP. Wow. Just like incredulous to his friend.
Civil War on Drugs. Ugh.
Civil War on Drugs is one of the greatest little comedy miniseries of all time.
I always wanted more of it. Like, I needed that. I love historical based kind of comedy shit, like Drunk History. I fucking love Drunk History. Yeah. Oh, but no, man, that's sad. What a loss. Yeah.
I always wanted to see more out of them. I was like, when is Whitest Kids You Know coming back?
Yeah. I guess he had he was doing like a talk show kind of a thing too for a minute.
Yeah, I watched a couple of those streams. They were, I want to say it was streamed on Super Deluxe.
Okay.
And, like you could like call in, and it was like a wild, really wacky kind of thing he was doing. He did like a 24-hour. Oh, it was a 24-hour live stream when they were doing net neutrality talks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he was just like taking calls and doing net neutrality shit, as I recall. I could be
like, they literally did 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta find this shit. It's got to be on YouTube.
It's somewhere.
So you said Donovan was the one who proposed the podcast idea.
Yeah.
How did you two meet initially?
We're old friends from college. I want to say the first time I ever met him, I was DJing at a house party that a buddy of his was throwing. Mm-hmm. He's actually a member of the RFTB canon. He's in the lore. It's Old Zisty. Mm-hmm. Our buddy throws this Halloween party, and I show up. I've got my I had a Newmark mix deck. Ooh, an all-in-one DJ solution with CD turntables and the whole thing. And so I show up with that. I hook it up to their sound system. And then this dude comes down the stairs with a bandolier of Red Bulls and 2 bottles of Jägermeister on his belt.
Fuck.
And I look at him and I'm like, what the fuck? And he's like, I'm the Jaeger bomber. So fucking silly. And like, we proceeded to just get absolutely shithoused that night. And we ended up, we bonded over music, because I was playing like, he's really into electronic shit too. So I was playing a lot of house and electro.
Yes.
And he's like, oh man, this band's fucking great. Like, who is this? And like, we're talking about music till like fucking 5 a.m. And it's funny. We didn't really ever hang out so much during college. We would just like see each other at these parties that our friend threw. Mm-hmm. And like, maybe we'd see each other and be like, oh, hey, how's it going? But then things really started kicking up like well after college. We all had PS4. We would play like Battlefield games. So we would just be like shooting folks online. and Donovan had this like ability to just drive a joke fully into the ground. So like I can't even remember any of them, but like we would be some stupid reference that we would just like hit over and over and over again until like late into the night, just playing video games and having beers. And that's really where how close we've become sort of generated from is those late night gaming sessions.
It's pretty interesting how, like, the people when you're in school, like, you think you guys are going to be friends for the rest of your life, and then you just kind of go your separate ways. And then later on in life, you never know who the fuck you're going to run into or what's going to happen with them. I kind of love it, you know?
Yeah, it's really wild. And I credit Sony with a lot of that, because I kept in touch with like most of my close college friends through playing PlayStation 4.
Nice.
Yeah, push up my glasses on that one.
Oh, yeah. You still a gamer?
Yes, I've moved mostly to PC gaming of late. I play a lot of Dark Souls.
Oh, God. I've been too scared to even fuck with that at all.
I will give you the encouragement. I will give you the encouragement. Start with Bloodborne if you're going to get into the Soulsborne series, just because it's like, it gives you something that's a little more self-contained and it's a little less kind of an undertaking. If you go like, okay, I'll just play Bloodborne because it's just one game in a series. You're not like committing to like, okay, once I beat Dark Souls, then I have to beat Dark Souls 2. You don't actually have to beat Dark Souls 2. That game is dog shit. And then I have to beat Dark Souls 3. You catch a lot of hate from your Dark Souls 2 fan listeners.
I've heard Bloodborne isn't quite as grueling as Dark Souls. Is that accurate?
It's so if I may get technical for a moment, the parry windows are bigger.
Okay.
So like in Dark Souls, somebody swings a sword at you. You have a window where you get to swing your sword or your shield into their weapon. And if you hit it at exactly the right time, they go into something called a riposte animation where they like reel back and they are available for you to riposte, where you go up and just like stab the shit out of them with your sword. In Bloodborne, you parry with a gun.
Okay.
You have a gun on your left hand. So like if somebody attacks you, you can back up out of the range of it and then shoot them. And if you hit them while they're in the attack animation, then they'll go into the riposte animation.
So it's just that little mechanic that gives you so much more range to not get fucked up, to give yourself a second. And
Dark Souls is a lot slower and more, I'll say, technical. Like you have, like you're using a shield a lot of the time. So you're like carefully blocking attacks and doing parries and like getting a couple hits in and then fighting these like massive armored knights. And then in Bloodborne, you're fighting like werewolves and shit. So you have to just like, they're about to kill you. You shoot them in the face and then you just cut them up with your saw cleaver. And like, it's a lot more like aggressive and visceral.
Diet Dark Souls kind of.
I will say extra caffeinated Dark Souls with taurine and guarana.
Oh, shit. Man, I gotta be careful. I will drink Red Bull. I was having to do a lot of driving at the beginning of this year, and I started drinking Monster.
Yeah,
I hadn't had Monster since college because I was taking some shrooms, and a friend was like, "Oh, if you take it, you know, the B12 really like amps it up, so it's like a lot more mellow but intense." So that was the last time I had Monster. And then with all the driving at the beginning of this year, I started drinking Monster just to stay awake on the road. And I don't know how the fuck I got on this. I'm sorry. This has nothing to do with video games.
It turns into a total fucking problem, though. Like,
it's a weird fucking high. And it's like, I've got like real fast metabolism. So like my blood sugar will just out of nowhere drop. And so, you know, I'll be running high on a Monster. And then all of a sudden, like the second I stop moving, basically, my entire body's just fucking wrecked.
Just shaking and your blood turns to syrup. And you're just like, oh.
Video games, I've been playing Yakuza. Have you played any of the Yakuza
I
games?
have it. Is this the new one, the Like a Dragon?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay.
I was a little trepidatious about getting into it. I don't know why. I guess I just didn't really watch it. I like to watch shit on Twitch maybe before to see how the gameplay is. And I actually started with Yakuza 0.
Okay.
And it was one of the funnest games I've ever played.
Isn't is that in the because I know Like a Dragon is like a JRPG, like it plays like a turn-based fighter. Is it is Yakuza 0 that, or because I know the earlier games in the series were action games?
Yakuza Like a Dragon, as I understand it, is the first RPG style one, turn-based. So everything before was basically like button mash, you get the right combo, you kick their ass kind of a thing. But where the juice is like, it is the wackiest story and dialogue. It goes everywhere. I cried a couple times playing 0. And like 1 minute you're crying because of this like woman who's, you know, blind because she was so traumatized by being human trafficked and yada yada.
Jesus.
Dude, it gets heavy. But then the next thing you know, you're like helping a dominatrix get her courage up, get her self-esteem up so she can be a good dom. And you're doing this like at a kiddie park, like with kids watching, saying, "What are you guys doing? Adults are weird."
That sounds awesome.
It's wonderful.
I love a game that goes places.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. Have you ever played Chrono Trigger?
I don't. Every time I hear that, I want to think of that game you'd play at an arcade where you've got the pistol and you put down. I think it's like Time Cop or something. No,
Time Cop
Short
or
answer,
51.
no. Yeah.
Speaking of, because you mentioned crying during video games, I recently wept like a little baby at like a 1995 JRPG where there's this robot named Robo, and he meets up with his brethren, basically. So like you meet this robot and he's all busted up and broken, and member of your party fixes him up and kind of reprograms him, and he joins your group. And then you meet the other robots in the series that he's from, and they instantly recognize that his programming has been changed, and then they're like, "You are a defect." And he's like, I'm a what? And they go, "You are broken. You must be destroyed." And they like beat his ass. They like beat him up really bad, and he won't fight back because they're his brothers. And so you just have to watch this character that you have just met and kind of fallen in love with because he's very charming, get just trashed and thrown into a trash heap.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, oh man.
The Japanese really know how to make you cry. Like with their storylines.
That's what we've learned today.
So what'd you study in college?
History. I was a history major. I studied colonial Africa, Central Asia, and the United States, particularly with a focus on the Black American experience. And I call my course of study Bad Shit That White People Did.
I imagine there's a lot.
Yeah, I think of myself as more of like a social historian. So like I looked mostly at what life was like for your average person during those periods. That's what I like to focus on. Because, like the whole great man theory of history where like, this guy did all this stuff. And it's like, no, a bunch of people carried out the will of one person. What was it like for the average person involved in those systems? Like, what was their life like? It's more what I'm interested in.
Did you take any like sociology classes to sort of supplement the curiosity about day to day?
I mostly just took whatever would fulfill requirements and looked easy.
Right.
And then like seriously focused on like the history courses. So probably my favorite course I took was a course on the history of Afghanistan. And it's really wild. Like you've got the Pashtun people and their sort of like code of like living, like there's like Pashtun law called the Pashtun Wali. And it's like really focused on hospitality and taking care of people in a way that like the American media, you would never know that about Afghan folks if you just listen to the media. And I remember very clearly on the final day of class, like we all took our final, and then he gets up in front of the class and he says, all right, so you guys now know more than 95% of the US State Department about Afghanistan. So pat yourselves on the back for that. But also do your best to try to like share this information with people, because we've been at war with this country for, you know, I think at that point it was nearing 2 decades, and nobody knows anything about it. So, you know, share this information with people.
So were you radicalized before or after this? Like, how did you get into this particular piece of history? That comes from partially my folks, because some of my earliest memories about politics are my mother and father yelling about Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan, and how they've ruined the fucking country. This place is a shithole now, motherfucker. And then a big part of that was college girlfriend, because when I met her, we were going into the 2008 election, and I remember seeing like Ron Paul and being kind of turned on by what Ron Paul had to say. Right. And she goes, oh honey, no. You don't want to go down that path.
He's like, no, you don't want to be, he's a libertarian. And I go, what do you mean libertarian? It's like it's just this idea that everybody should be allowed to do exactly whatever they want without any government regulation whatsoever. And I'm like, oh no, it sounds pretty good. She's like, what about corporations? I'm like, what corporations? Like, well, of course they shouldn't be able to like pollute and stuff. And she goes, Ron Paul thinks they should be able to just dump whatever they fucking want in the ocean.
And boom.
I'm like, wait a second. You mean to tell me that Nestle doesn't have my best interest in mind?
Where'd you grow up?
Cincinnati, Ohio. I grew up in this very room that I'm actually sitting in, unfortunately.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm from Loveland, Ohio, and this is where I am currently.
Oh.
Ain't never been out the mouth of this holler except for when I went up and lived in Columbus for a while. I lived in New York State for a year, going to school with college girlfriend. But yeah, it's a bleak little town in a lot of ways. It's become, especially the part of town where I am, it's really, I call it strip mall hell. Oh yeah. So it's just like on either side of the street, there's like, it's like tanning place, gym, dollar store, Chinese restaurant. On the other side, you've got a home goods store and a grocery store and a Walgreens. And then you go up a little further, and you've got a mattress store and another grocery store and a GameStop and a GameStop and a GameStop.
It's literally everywhere in the United States, essentially.
Exactly.
Outside of a few little bubbles.
Yeah. There's, I wish I could remember the name of the artist. There's an artist that paints landscapes that are just these sort of bleak suburban, commercial spheres.
Oh God.
And I love that shit. Like he was featured in Super Size Me, so you could like figure that out from that information, listener. You can go, this is now an ARG. You can track down this artist by going and watching Super Size Me. But I love that shit because it really shows it's the closure of the commons again. Like there's nowhere that you can like exist without spending money.
Right.
And so what happens to people when they don't have any fucking money? They're completely marginalized. And I think it was on Chapo where they were saying that they like exist in this system to like serve as a reminder of what could happen to you if you don't submit to capital.
Right. That's fucking dark, man.
Yeah.
I was living in Austin. I'm in Tulsa now. I moved here a few months ago. Like I'm originally from Denver, moved around a bit, but I mostly grew up in Oklahoma. And I recently had to come back, my girlfriend and I, because we lost our home in Austin, Texas. Did you hear about like the ice storm that hit it back in February?
Yeah. I had buddies down there that were totally fucked up by that.
Yep. We were one of them. We lost our home and like we had hypothermia. We were so fucking lucky. We got like one of the last hotel rooms that had electricity. Otherwise, we would have been dead probably because we lived in a shithole. It was the only thing you could afford in Austin, and it was already overpriced for a drafty shithole. And we just like lost fucking everything. We lost our home, and then finally we were like, fuck it, let's just go to Oklahoma.
Let's get out of here.
Tulsa's, I mean, it's Tulsa, but there's some fun shit. I got a lot of friends here, so
fuck yeah. That's what I've learned, because I haven't ever lived in, not Austin, not Chicago, not New York, but like Cincinnati and Columbus. And you don't really think of those places like cultural hubs, but particularly Columbus, Ohio is just it's a beautiful little town with like a ton of shit to do and some wonderful people doing some excellent art. So like, big ups to that city. And I'll say it, small to mid-sized cities around this beautiful country of ours. Move somewhere less expensive, Brooklynites, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, there's cool shit out there.
Yeah.
My girlfriend's from Dayton, and she lived in Columbus forever for school.
Yeah.
And she's always talking about it. I want to go. We actually might, COVID pending stuff. If it's safe, we might go this fall.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hit me up when you're in town. We can like go. I could show you a couple things. We can hang out or whatever.
That'd be cool as hell. Yeah. Oh, but the thing that got me on to Austin was talking about living the place where you have to shop. Like you live, work, and shop all in the same place. There's this, it terrifies me. Like I always got really, dark vibes off of this place called The Domain.
Oh God.
It's in northish Austin, and it's a lot of new, I think it probably developed maybe like 5 years ago or so. But there's all sorts of just like restaurants, little shopping areas, and apartments, like new, way overpriced apartments, all in the same sort of square half mile.
Oh yeah, I've seen those places.
They're all over, and it's like just a new version of hell in my eyes.
Yeah. There's always like a really bleak, I keep using that word, a really bleak sports
It is
bar.
bleak. Yes.
There's always just like a horrifying, it's like an Applebee's minus. You're like, I'm going to go eat, like, this is my life now. I'm going to go down to the like 12 square foot gym and run on the treadmill for a little while. And then I'm going to go like tie one on at the, could be like a Butterbees or something,
Just a hamster in this wheel.
Exactly. And like, especially with like remote work, like you don't even like leave the compound to like go to work. You're just like, you're in this little cubicle. It reminds me of that fucking Black Mirror episode where they have to like do the exercise bikes.
Oh yes. And then you have to get tokens, yada yada.
Oh.
Imagine just what that does to your psyche, and just I don't know if it's just me being, a pretentious lefty or something, but it's like people who are living in those boxes. Yeah. Do you realize what kind of effect it's having on your mind and your body and your soul?
It's really weird. Like there's something about having varied experiences and like doing different shit sometimes that is really good for the human spirit. That just doesn't exist if you like live in the place that you work, in the place that you play,
Mm-hmm.
It's this sort of like, it's like an atrophying of parts of your like spirit.
Yeah.
And I could never with one of those. Like, I'm even leery about like, oh, my apartment complex has like a pool and a gym. It's like, I feel like your place that you live should just be a place that you like, have some of your shit and then you go do stuff.
Agreed. These apartments that have like the whole like community area, no one ever really hangs out at those places.
No, there's no reason to, because you've got a little kitchenette in your place. Like, what are you going to come down and like, we're all going to hang out and have frozen pizzas in the parlor.
Can you just imagine the, what's the word? I'm forgetting the word. It would just be awkward having to like pretend to be nice with all the neighbors you don't really fucking care to talk to.
Sure.
At a cookout.
I think there is an appropriate level of contempt for the people that live near you that like is that is supposedly missing from these places.
Yeah.
Did you see? I feel like I'm going half cocked on this one because I only watched half of it. But there's a documentary on WeWork on Hulu. I
haven't even seen any of it, so don't worry.
Sure.
But throw it at me.
Yeah. So do you know what WeWork is? Are you familiar with this company?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So they apparently, like before they went under, they were starting WeLive, which is like an apartment. It's like a communal apartment complex with like it's just these little boxes that you live in. It's basically like it's almost like a capsule hotel. And then you have like these common areas that everybody can use.
Mm-hmm.
And the first people that like moved into these were like psychopaths that never went anywhere and just like fully bought into this vision of what it could be. And apparently there was like just a ton of fucking in these places because people would like like meet up in these common areas and everybody's single because you can't have like, a live-in partner in one of these WeWork spaces. So there was a joke among the architects and the interior designers that everything had to be built to support the weight of two people. Oh, because they were going to be banging on it.
Yeah.
And like
no cardboard beds like in Tokyo.
No. Somebody said it would be weird if somebody left the complex. Like somebody would say like, yeah, I'm going to my friend's birthday party. And the next question would be, oh, which unit are they in? Like
someone somewhere down the line said, this sounds like a fucking great idea.
Yeah, it was this like billionaire from Japan apparently like met up with the CEO of WeWork and was like he got an 18-minute tour of the office and was like, listen, I gotta go. This is a really wild thing you got going, but you have to get crazier. And it's like, okay. So he's like, all right, we're going to do WeLive. And they were in plans to do a thing called WeLearn. They were going to try to revolutionize education as like a communal living experience. And it's just absolutely soul shattering. It's like this, it's Brave New World, they're definitely trying to bring Aldous Huxley's vision to life.
They read that and said, this is great. This is all in the documentary.
Yeah, it's on Hulu. Let me get the title. Let me get the title of this documentary. I'm gonna go to Hulu real quick.
WeWork, we didn't work.
WeWork, it didn't. Where is it? WeWork on the making and breaking of a $47 billion unicorn.
Oh yeah, good Lord.
Yeah, really wild stuff.
There was a WeWork close to my old apartment in Austin, so that's all I've got to say about that.
You walk past and you just get this vague sense of unease. You're like,
it was kind of like a zoo walking past, seeing the people working in there, because for my day job, I work remote too, but I don't want to pay to just do my job. I can do that shit for free at home, shit my own toilet.
Right.
Yeah, it felt weird. There's a lot of shit that just feels weird.
It's true. There is a pervasive unease in the United States these days. And I hate to say these days, you know, I hate that phrase. I hate that concept because, like, as a student of history, I know that, like, when people say these days, what they mean is these are contradictions that have existed forever that you're just kind of now reckoning with as a person because you're living in this time.
Right.
But it seems different, doesn't it? Like everything
over like the past month or so, I've felt like, I don't know, like my instinct has felt this sort of like keen sense of like, there's weird, but this is like unusual levels of weird. Yeah. Like there's something on the horizon. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah. I get that too. Cause there's Delta variant obviously out there, ripping it up, really tearing up the charts. You've got this administration that we're under, which I think they said it best on Chapo, because that's who I go to for my political analysis. Mm-hmm. They were talking about how the election was supposed to be like some kind of catharsis. Like we had, all this build up to this election, and then Joe Biden wins. And there was supposed to be this sense of like, oh, Cheeto Man's gone.
Mom's home. She's going to take care of us. We're safe. Exactly.
And it just didn't come. Like nobody has that sense. And I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Like, and that's sort of a new feeling for me. Like always kind of like 2016 was a shock when Donald Trump won. But once we had that information, we're like, okay, we know what's going to happen. Like chuds are going to chud it up, and immigrants are going to get fucked over. But like you kind of had like a sense of what the narrative was going to be. Right. I don't know what the fucking narrative is anymore. I've completely lost the plot.
Right. I kind of predicted that Trump would win. Like when he was coming in, I was kind of like, this makes sense that he would win. What's worst case scenario? That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then, it does make sense. Like I have no fucking idea. Like we know what needs to be done.
Yeah.
But it's not happening.
No, there's no motion in that direction.
And
like even our heroes are like falling off left and right. Like you've got Bernie and AOC like not doing what needs to be fucking done.
Yeah.
And like what was I saw some just heinous AOC t-shirt that was like live laugh socialism or some shit.
Is that one of the ones that she's like advertising on Instagram or some shit?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw someone retweet a picture of that on Twitter, and it's just like, oh, we're doomed.
Yeah. We lost.
Yeah.
Fuck. Happy 100th episode.
Oh, happy 100th episode. And actually, this just reminded me of another question I had written for you.
Ooh.
If you were God Emperor of the world, what would you do? Big question. You get creative with it. Yeah.
Interesting. I would, of course, install the immortal science of Marxist-Leninist communism.
But of course.
But more accurate, like, I don't know, I'm maybe more of a Trotskyist, or I need to learn more about, like, Possadism. Because
aliens are cool.
That's hot with the kids.
Yeah.
It's about aliens? I didn't even know that about Possadism.
He's like, he believes in UFOs and like dolphins talking and shit.
Well, I mean, that shit's real.
Yeah.
Like that dolphin shit, when they gave him acid and like all of a sudden they're able to like communicate with humans.
And the nurse had to jack off the dolphin to get it to be
he's getting all horned up. Yeah. Like that shit's real. Like dolphins know some shit.
Premium fucking history, dude.
Yeah, I watched the Drunk History of Duncan Trussell talked about that.
Oh, God, yes. Do you ever listen to the Duncan Trussell podcast?
I should. That's one of the ones that's like on the list of things that I should get involved with. I gotta get a Netflix sub so I can watch Midnight Gospel. Like this dude seems like he's kind of got it together. Like he's doing some shit.
He's a good one. He doesn't like he would be on board, but I don't think he really talks to the right people enough to be totally locked into the idea of like critical material analysis kind of stuff.
Sure.
but he's there. You know, he's spiritual kind of thing, more spiritual than materialist.
I think we need like more of an element of that, perhaps. I think that's something that's maybe a turnoff for people, especially in this country, because there's this idea that the world is secularizing. I don't think the U.S. is secularizing at that same rate. I think we're still, some huge percentage of Americans believe that angels are real and intervene in people's lives.
I have a friend who's a white magician, and she talks to angels and gets messages from license plates.
For sure. Okay. I'm into that.
Yeah. She also thinks video games makes people violent.
Interesting. Interesting take.
Yeah.
I believe I have bipolar disorder, and when I get manic, I get delusional, and I have psychotic features to my mania. And
extra spice.
Yes, add just a little bit of extra flavor on that.
That's some fun.
Because it's not enough that I just be incredibly speedy and high on my own brain. I also have to like get delusional and psychotic. That's pretty cool.
Fuck yeah.
And I have this belief that I am possessed of secret knowledge, but I don't know what that knowledge is. But if they know that I know the secret knowledge, they're going to come get me.
That is so common. I have a relative who has bipolar disorder, and they too, when they are manic, they never said it outright, but I kind of pieced it together. Before I heard it explicitly said as like a secret knowledge, I was kind of piecing it together. It's like this person is acting as if they know something none of us know.
And that you can't know. You're not allowed to know.
But it's the key to saving everyone.
Yep. Yep. That's 100% what it is. It feels like there is like some kind of nuclear plan in my brain, some kind of mode, like new mode of life or something. Like it gets really wild. For more on that, check out my appearance on Take Your Pill Psychopath with John F. O'Donnell. We talk about all that shit.
Oh, I forgot what I was going to say.
We're here.
So, we're here, man. Let me consult my notes.
Yes, please.
I've got some notes here. Let's see. What has your...
moleskin.
Thank you. My mom got this in Canada. It's handmade.
Ooh.
I know.
Very nice.
I love it. It's so nice. Back to podcasting. What has your experience been like? Do you feel you've matured or mastered the skill after all these years?
Interesting. I don't think I've mastered the skill. And I think the second you think you've mastered the skill, you've lost it. Like you have to sort of stay hungry. Because I can tell the pod story, like how I came to like enjoy them or understand, like know anything about them. Who was it? Oh, so Scott Aukerman of Comedy Bang Bang.
Yes.
Gets the deal with IFC and starts the TV show. And I'm like, this looks fucking zany and wacky. What's this about? So I watched the show on, I think the first season came out on Netflix, and I'm like, what is this? This is wild. And then
with Reggie Watts,
with
of course.
Reggie.
Yes.
He's so great. And so I'm like, wait, there's like an audio format of how do you do this in an audio format? What is this? So I start listening to that, and then it's just a short hop from Comedy Bang Bang to WTF. And I got real into Marin for a long time. I was one of the early, I actually had the Earwolf app.
Oh, really?
Back when that was a thing before Scripps bought them and they just folded it into Stitcher Premium. So I have this deep lore with podcasts, and I don't know, if you feel like you mastered the craft, you've lost it, is kind of where I am. And I don't think if you ask that question of Scott Aukerman, he would be like, what are you talking about? Mastered? What is this?
Right.
So I feel like the technical end of things I've gotten pretty decent at. I started using compressors and limiters and, actually having the audio Sound good, which has been a pretty good feature of the show. And I think we're on the way to something bigger. Like, I think things are coming.
Really?
Like, we've had some reasonably popular guests. We've had people that have been featured on bigger things. We had John McAfee for no fucking reason.
I forget if I heard that episode or not.
It's incredible.
Was he on for like 15 minutes or something?
He stayed for the hour.
I gotta find this.
And he brought his wife Janice. So we actually got a full hour with John and Janice McAfee, talking about the genesis of their relationship. They talk about they rate prisons that they've been in.
What?
Yeah, it's really a wild ride. And so Donovan absolutely gets him by accident, because he's he takes some kind of medication for sleep. And so one night he pops his sleeping medication. He's browsing Reddit before he goes to sleep. And he's laying in bed looking at his phone. And he sees a post from somebody that he thinks is John Mulaney saying, "I will go on your podcast if it's been around for more than a year."
Oh my God.
And he goes, "Oh yeah, John Mulaney would be great. Let's get John Mulaney on." Next morning, he wakes up to an email from Janice McAfee saying, "We would love to come on your show." And he's like, "Wait, McAfee?" And he looks him up and he goes, "Oh my God, the multimillionaire murderer, wanted for tax evasion in multiple countries. What the fuck?" And so the day comes when we're supposed to record with him. And we're sitting there, we're in the recording session before John gets on. And we're like, what are we even going to fucking do here? And Donovan gets the idea. He just goes, "Why don't we just wind him up and let him go? Probably the best thing we could have happen here is just have him talk."
Yeah. And he can talk.
Oh, he's a talker.
Yeah.
And, we go into just about everything. And the most fascinating thing to me was his relationship with Janice. When they met, she was a sex worker. And their first night together, they just cuddled.
Oh.
And I'm like, that's really fucking sweet. And then he gets her away from her pimp, and they move away, and then the pimp's after him. And it's just a wild fucking story. I can't encourage people enough to go check that out.
It's that movie True Romance.
It really is. It's such a wild story, and I wrap it up on a neat little button. I bring it back to advice at the end of the episode in a neat little way. So,
I think I interrupted you. What episode was that?
It is episode 101, entitled "John fucking McAfee."
101. John McAfee was one of my favorite American icons. He's up there with Doc Holliday.
Absolutely, he's a myth. He's an absolute myth.
Did you see that documentary? I think it was called Gringo or whatever. It was on Hulu. It's where these, have you heard about this? He had a scat fetish kind of a thing.
We did. We've toyed with the idea of just opening the episode on, "So you like shit?" or but we decided not to antagonize him.
Oh. God damn. What was it like? Were you shaken before talking to him? I don't know how the fuck I would feel.
We recorded a pre-thing. So we recorded a little thing. We're okay, so we're about to talk with John McAfee. We just want to make it clear that we this person has done things that we do not agree with. He is he's a ruthless capitalist, an absolute exploiter of labor. And we, can't get down with that. On the other hand, very interesting character. And I think there's a lot to be learned from him. So let's go to our interview with John McAfee. And then we recorded a post thing where we're just holy shit, what the fuck just happened? We're just losing our minds. And Yeah, it's really strange. I have this odd sort of relationship to John McAfee where I have like survivor's guilt, where I feel like a little responsible, because our first question to him, he's like, so we go, can you explain like who you are and what you do? And he's like, I'm a wanderer, a man of mystery. And Donovan goes, where you been wandering? And he goes, I can't tell you. And then Janice busts in with all over Europe.
Oh.
And then where does he get busted?
Spain, was it?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I have this really odd kind of, I'm like, should they have, man, don't tell us, John.
Oh, dude. I don't think it was you.
I think it couldn't have been. It's not like the CIA is listening to Radio Free Tote Bag to get hot hits of McAfee.
Unless I'm
manic and I'm having a delusional episode.
Have you ever, like, when you're having the grandiose thoughts and everything, have you ever tried to like write it down and try to maybe make sense of it?
It doesn't come out right.
Mm-hmm.
Every, like, I used to smoke a ton of weed, right?
Right.
And I figured out that that's like a manic trigger. So I would be like hypomanic for a long time, just like smoking every day and writing shit in a notebook. And I have this completely disjointed notebook that I keep around with, like, it's got little like joke pieces in it, and like just bits, because I wanted to do stand-up for a long time. Mm-hmm. And that ended up never coming together, but it's just like some of that shit's dork. Like I look at some of those pages and I'm just like, wow, you were in a weird place, weren't you?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So you wanted to do stand-up?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that.
I always idolized, like, coming up, I was real into Letterman and Leno. Mm-hmm. Like I watched a lot of late night. I even watched Johnny Carson, like when I was real young. And to be honest with you, I wanted and still want that job. Like late night host seems pretty fucking good, doesn't it? You just like get to meet all these famous people and tell funny jokes, and you've got like this whole apparatus around you, like designed to make you the optimal personality for television. Like it seems really interesting. I gotta lose about 80 pounds, but I feel like that's something I could handle. No, it's like flash forward to 6 months later, I'm completely a manic wreck, but
that could be a show. It'd be like Eric Andre show, maybe.
It would be a little bit like Eric Andre, or like can you imagine if like Stephen Brody Stevens had ended up getting some kind of like late night thing?
Oh dude, that would have been intense.
Yeah, that would have been
such fiery energy.
Mm-hmm. I still say Stephen Brody Stevens lines all the time, RIP to a real one, but I'll definitely, like, somebody will say something and I'll be like, push and believe. Yes.
Do people get it?
No, nobody fucking knows Stephen Brody Stevens. He's such an unsung hero.
Yeah.
Like just an absolute like warrior of a personality. And that's another one. We're talking about death a whole bunch on this episode, but
I know, it's like people are dying or some shit. It's fucking weird.
It's almost like we're in the middle of like a giant mental health and drug addiction crisis in this country, in addition to a horrifying pandemic.
That's why you should go to church.
Fair enough.
Well, I think we're about at an hour right now. Would you be interested in maybe sticking around for a bonus episode?
Hell yeah, I'd love to.
Awesome.
Yeah. I'm having a great time.
I'm having so much fun. I've got a lot of questions. We don't have to get through all of them, but
let's go.
Oh, and I forgot to ask on the other thing. I can copy. Plugs. Sure. Plugs.
Yeah, pluggables. You can find us at rftb.me. That's where you're going to find our feed for the main show. We also have patreon.com/Radio Free Tote Bag, where for $5 a month, you can get 4 bonus episodes that's a bonus episode every week. And for $10 a month, we'll even give you a shout out on the fucking show. We're going to say your name if you give us a little bit of extra money. And coming pretty soon, I'm going to plug it here, tote bags.
Tote bags for Radio Free Tote Bag
are in the works. We're going to get them together, and we're going to take Minion Death Cult's advice, and we're going to get a nice gusseted canvas tote bag. We're getting some new artwork for the show.
Nice.
And big things in the works. We're gonna get that going here pretty soon. We're gonna start taking pre-orders probably by the end of September. We're gonna start taking pre-orders.
You hear that, folks? It's up to you to, blow NPR out of the fucking water. For dear listeners and or viewers, if you would like to catch the bonus episode, I'll fill you in on a little clip after this. Thank you so much for being on the show. This is I was just taking a shot, reaching out to you, and I'm so glad I did. This is a real treat.
I'm glad you did too. This was great.
Hell yeah. Okay, well, let's take a quick pee break and then get back to it.
Hell yeah, I'm into it.
All right.
See you in a sec.
See you in a second.
And thus concludes episode 100 of That Thing with James. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your support. And thanks again to Arthur for being a guest. We had a lot of fun recording this. And if you would like to catch the rest of the interview, you can access it at patreon.com/thatthingwithjames. So if you're not a member already, I encourage you to consider becoming one. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll catch you next week. Bye. Bye. Bye.